Oh, leaving that is so selfish. It's good. Is it? Is it sweet?
This is going to be Chewing the Shit, episode one, where we talk to people in the Dabbleverse Hackverse and kind of get to know their side and how they feel about everything that's going on. And I'm joined today with Dabblestorian. Dabblestorian, thank you so much, man, for agreeing to this interview. How are you
No
doing?
worries. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for asking. We've already been talking a little bit over the past couple of days, and it's been really cool getting
Yeah.
to know you. And
I mean, it's no worries. Been just
yeah,
been feeding you info.
yeah. Now you've been really cool about that. Actually, I really appreciate that.
No
I
worries.
feel a little blessed up because you're getting this glow up in the Dabbleverse right now, and you haven't lost your connection to the smaller man. So I really appreciate that.
Well, you're bigger than me still, but I don't mind helping out anyone, even if it's El Replay, Cardiff, OJ, or someone as small as my buddy Dayla. We're all people at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, and you bring Dela up now. Yeah, Dela and you have had some history with Joey.C. Not to go into questions yet, but you bring up Dela. You want to talk more about him? I heard that you represent him. Is that true?
I'm his agent. I consider him to be my internet best friend. Me and Dayla will spend hours upon hours coming on our projects, talking on the phone, just chewing the shit essentially. But we
Chewing the
just hang
shit.
out the most. Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. That's cool. Well, that's what we're doing here today as well. We're chewing the shit.
I
Um,
mean, I also chew the shit with Stuttering John, but
yeah, I'm a little jealous of that actually. Uh,
it's pretty
yeah.
easy. I can bring you on at some point, as long as say you behave.
Oh, I promise to behave.
Yeah,
Wink, wink.
that's no problem. Well, I'll speak to John at some point.
Actually, I think though, speaking to John, and you had said something about this in a previous conversation that we had. How whenever you're talking to John, he kind of he's pretty charismatic.
Yeah, you feel like you're the only person there. To be honest, it's it's very difficult to explain until you're with him. And I went into the first time I ever spoke to him, so not knowing what I was going into, and I knew he brought up the GoFundMe and he donated, so I was just genuinely surprised, and I didn't realize how much of a nice guy he was, and
Uh,
how much he wanted to help me, and Cole necessarily. So I was I guess, kind of just shocked by and taken by that, and just kind of realized how much of a nice individual he is.
yeah, because he does get a lot of flack for being a bit of a selfish individual. So
Yeah, and that's the problem I kind of didn't like is like John would get a lot of shit for that interview, for the bad things he did, but nobody ever gave him credit for the good things he did necessarily, and I thought that was a bit biased necessarily.
yeah, yeah, and that's I think like the whole universe is centered around picking apart a John's every small problem, and I think I do tend to agree a little bit that he doesn't get enough credit sometimes when he is actually funny, or when he actually does something nice for someone as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna say John's kind of just underrated necessarily. He doesn't get the respect he kind of deserves a little bit. I understand like there's people who hate him, but there's some people that really like him, like me. Who I think he's okay.
So you do really like John.
I I do. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'd like John. He's been nothing but kind to me and polite to me and helped me and like the like how do I explain this? Like the only problem I've ever really had with people if they have a problem with me. So for example, I have a problem with Joey.C because he keeps on attacking me and my friends. John's done nothing but helped me and my friends. He's helped off charity. He's done nothing but polite, and like we're talking. Also, he's helped me out with my documentary. He's asked questions to me. He's been nothing but polite and courteous to me. So it's nothing for me to go, okay, that guy's a bit of a dick. No, he hasn't been. So it's like, okay, I really like John. He's a nice guy necessarily.
Yeah, anybody would want to be treated that way, based on just
Yeah,
their interactions with one another and not really come into a relationship with a bias.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. John, obviously, he's done a lot in the past, so I'm not here to bring that up. But I actually did want to say, what was the first time that you met John, or you managed to get onto his stream? Like, how did that come about?
Well, it came about because Joey.C was starting doing bad stuff, so I was able to find John's email and I started sending in what Joey.C was doing to John. So, for example, Joey.C said the N word, and I sent that to John. John saw that and was like, "Okay, I've got to bring on Joey.C and tell him off for this." And I kept on doing that until John saw, like, I think it was the time Joey.C said he donated to charity when he didn't. John saw that. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna bring this guy on. I'm gonna help his charity out and do a good thing." And like, necessarily, that's what happened. That's the first time I met John. It was on Thule Tuesday as well, so I didn't. So it was kind of those weird things. Like I didn't really know what was going to happen, but he brought me on, and we just kind of clicked.
And did you feel flustered at all when you first went on?
Yeah, I actually had a drink or two beforehand because I was quite nervous about going on with John. Like John is, he's the biggest star in the Dabbleverse necessarily. He's the one who created it all. And to go onto his show, not knowing what was going to happen, I was like, "Oh, I'm nervous. I need a drink or two just to calm my nerves."
Really? I definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you also, so you were just so Joey C was kind of the instrumental thing that allowed you to form a relationship with John. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it all kind of started with Joey.C attacking us. So I was like, okay, I know John won't like what you're doing, so I'll send John these clips of you being misbehaving. Because you say you're such a good friend with John, I know John doesn't like you being racist, being transphobic, being homophobic, and let him know like what the kind of person you are. And Joey.C would get angry about that. Then John eventually brought me on, and he kind of saw what kind of guy I was necessarily.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. And now that you and Joey are pretty much in a perpetual podcast war, it seems Joey just can't keep your name out of his mouth.
But here's the thing about Joey. I was actually out of the Joey.C business when I went on John's show. I think by that point I was out of the Joey.C business for 3 days because I was like, I've kind of beaten him. I've done everything Joey.C said I couldn't do. I've kind of beaten him to a point of where he's blocked me on Twitter. He's sent a message. He's kind of sent this message. I don't want anything to do with Dabblestorian. Dabblestorians won. So I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm out of the Joey.C business. I'm gonna go on John. I won't mention Joey.C. Joey.C got maybe mentioned in that interview once when John asked me about what the beef was. I explained what it was, and Joey.C was watching live. I think he was kind of stream sniping, and he was getting quite pissed off. Especially with John donating $50, he was like, "Oh, John's donating that in my name," and Joey.C was just trashing John after. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna start going after you again because you're trashing me and you're trashing John, and also you're trashing my charity that I'm raising money for. You said it was a scam. Like I've not mentioned you. You've gone out of your way to start mentioning me again, even though you've kind of admitted I've beaten you. Like the game's back on again."
Yeah, so Joey has pretty much started it up again. But you did mention there that you've been raising money for a charity. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, it was a GoFundMe for an individual called Cole. This was brought up during the time we brought on Mrs. C for an interview. That's Josie's wife. We brought her on for to prove that she had what was it, diplomas or degrees, something like that. And she made a 50, but there was a bet made. It was $50, and Bill said, "Hey, I can put the $50. I can give you the $50. I give it towards this kid." She chose to give to the kid. And during the stream, Joey.C was actually like in the other room screaming and shouting, calling us names like saying that we call our names, we're bad people, we're horrible people, we're malicious, and like you could see Bill and Mrs. C talking, and Mrs. C's like not cowering, but she's like, "Oh, I'm embarrassed. You know, he needs to get new medication." And obviously, there was a point where Mrs. C left, and I came back on, and Joey.C stream sniping us, and he's sending in messages. So let me remember the message he sent, and he said we're two gays, something like that. But he misspelled it. I don't know if you know this, but Joey.C's illiterate, so whatever he says doesn't make sense. And when he was stream sniping us, Bill kind of asked him to, hey, do you mind not maybe sharing this charity out to your fans? You got 4,000 fans. If you help promote this, it'd be great. Or maybe just throwing a few bucks in. But Joey.C decided to attack us again, and I thought that was quite scummy and bad. He called us like arseholes and all these names while we were just asking for him to maybe just share the charity or throw a few bucks necessarily. Like we weren't asking much, but he was still attacking us.
It does seem a little unwarranted on Joey's end,
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
it?
all of Joey.C's attacks have mostly been unwarranted. Like I've really done nothing bad towards him. And he'll say like, "Oh, Dabblestorian trashed me in Reddit." You mean the same Reddit where I put up your intro and people were, and when I put up your intro and I showed other people the work I made for you, the photos that were going to be your background for your show, and you say those were trolling. Like Joey, you don't have a truthful bone in your body, buddy. But also in the same Reddit, you trashed a veteran in there. Like, what's your problem?
Well, I think we can all agree that veteran trashing is not something anyone wants to get behind.
Well, no, like I think there's you veterans kind of deserve a certain amount of respect necessarily, especially if they've served your country. Not like
Absolutely.
everyone else, but just give them some respect, especially if they're saying, "Hey, Joey, I got a problem with you with stolen valor. Please, could you address this?" And you start calling them names and like saying they're like dicks, assholes, and all this stuff. You're not showing respect to that person who's identified as that they're a veteran. They find this offensive and would like you to address this.
And um, like, what do you think Joey's going to do about it going forward?
He's gonna blame me, Dale, Bill, or someone else. He'll always deflect it. So, for example, he had a stream one time where his internet was playing up, where his internet just couldn't handle it, and what he said was Melvin hacked into his modem and corrupted his internet, and that's why he can't do a proper good stream. Instead of just admitting like the faults he has, Joey.C can never be wrong. He can never be bad. He can never do anything that's not good.
And I've had a chance to look at some of Joey's earlier material. Joey has been podcasting and putting out stuff since at least 2019. And
Yeah, unfortunately, most of that's lost though. The only two episodes I was able to find is Howard Stern wrap up and Joey.C singing songs, but he says he's singing "My Eyes Adore You," which is not true because he's actually singing "I Love You, Baby." So he doesn't even know what he's singing.
wow, so you're saying Joey.C is tone deaf as well as being illiterate?
Yeah, if you could play him singing "I Love You, Baby" at this moment, and I think people will agree he is the worst singer.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much.
I will have to go. I will insert that in post for sure.
Yeah,
But I wanted to bring up too that Joey seemed to have a tendency for his Howard Stern wrap up show. From the audio that I listened to, he was being very easily manipulated by somebody. Let's say he was reacting in a similar fashion. It was comments that were being taken out of context, and he thought they were serious, like threats of violence towards him, when it was a total joke. And he was having what a similar response to what I see him having towards you.
But the thing about Joey.C is like I've kind of done some research on his baseball background. He seems like he never really got any respect. Like I feel like that's probably what the problem he's had throughout his life. Nobody's respected him or treated him correctly. So whenever he's like people treat him badly, he will flare up because nobody ever has like treated him nicely. So I
Yeah,
think during
yeah.
his baseball days, he used to be called like really horrible names, and like even during the Howard Stern days, they knew what kind of guy he was. He was kind of one of those guys who had a hair trigger temper necessarily. So all he had to do is wind him up a bit and give him he would give them the reaction they would want. But also, like I know you've gone through his old Twitter and you've probably discovered some things, like for example, him buying subscribers on there as well. Stolen Ballot tweets.
Yes. I've been looking more into this issue of the subscription, like the bot subscription,
Yeah.
and if you actually look at Joey's social blade, and I'll put it up right now for the people to see, there's 2 months where he gains over 1,000 followers. So I think it's like 1,400 and like over 700 or something.
Well, it's actually bigger than that. Like if you look at his streams, they generally he gets 20 to 30, 20 to 40 subscribers every stream he does.
Yes, yes.
And
I was going to bring that up
yeah.
too. Yeah.
So even if he does a stream like last night, which was just a blank screen, he's somehow going to get 20 subscribers from that. And you're like, how is that possible? If I watched that, I'd be like, okay, I'm not subscribing to that, get lost. But he seems to have this growth which is unexplainable. He cannot prove it necessarily. He says, okay, I put this in Michael Francese's inner circle. Okay, show us. I can't show you. Like a lot of the stuff he says he does, he just cannot prove necessarily. I mean, if you asked him to prove something, he'd just change the subject, which he usually does.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem to have very little proof for this
Yeah.
supposed advertising he does in these groups. And yeah, like I said, I've looked at the StreamYard. He gains like 30, 20, 30, 40 new subscribers a day.
Yeah.
It
But also,
does
if
look
you've gone
very,
over the
it does look very
numbers,
suspicious.
you've gone over the numbers. He's been here for 3 months. He has somewhere like 5,000 subscribers nearly. That's not really feasible. I've been here for about 2 months. I have about 108 subscribers. That's more reasonable for somebody who's obviously not a celebrity and is kind of starting out new. He's somehow been able to do all this really big stuff and got all these amazing amounts of subscribers. But sometimes his what's the word I want to use? His streams get better than his streams only get 10 people watching. So
Yeah. So how's it possible? Yeah, how's it possible for 30 people to subscribe if there's only 10 people
I don't
watching
know.
the stream?
I mean, unless Spider Alam or Mrs. C and DG is creating accounts in the background, I don't know.
It's very possible that Spider Alomar. I've heard some very shady things about him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about Spider. I mostly focus on Joey.C.
It's
That's kind
best
of
to.
my area of interest.
Well, I think for our own safety, we should stop talking about Spider. But so there are plans for you and Joey now to do a comedy battle that's being organized by the Shitware Network, and you are being trained by Bob Levy. How are you feeling about that?
I'm hoping John will also train me too, but
Oh, that's right. John's going to be training you as well.
I hope so. I'm waiting for him I'm waiting to hear back from him. But the thing is, like with Joey.C, is I've never found him really funny. I've only ever found him funny when he's done something unintentionally. So it's not laughing with him; it's laughing at him. And he's always like for example, he always thinks he can beat Melton. I've watched his streams. I've never seen him beat Melton in anything.
No, I would I would agree there for sure. I mean, Patrick does an excellent job of winding up Joey and putting on little bits to make it appear as if Joey's gotten the upper hand. Or yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah, it's just delusional at the Joey.C network. Like they believe they're the smartest and most intelligent people on the planet, but they're really the dumbest and most unintelligent, unfunny people I ever heard. Like, I don't know if you know this, but Kai's nickname for me is Dabblestorius erectus. Most nicknames are actually meant to be shorter than the name you're given.
Yeah, that one doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, like I've said this about Kai from the Joey.C network. He uses big words to sound smart.
Yeah, classic marker of somebody who lacks intelligence.
Somebody who's got an inferiority complex.
Yes, I would agree with that. But also circling back to the fight between you and Joey being organized by Shuli and all. Do you think now? I believe what you say is right about maybe Joey. He might lack the ability to come back at you. So do you think that they're going to be feeding him lines during your comedy battle?
Maybe. I mean, Mike Morse is training him, so it's possible.
Well, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
he's
he
already
doesn't put up that shit, so.
he's already at a disadvantage with Mike Morse training him, and you have
I mean,
two. You could possibly have two comedy heavyweights with John and Bob in your
two
corner.
giants.
Two giants. Yeah.
I don't like. I'd be surprised if I lost, to be honest, because the thing about Joey is he has his temper which he can't control. So if he tries to roast me and it doesn't work, he's just going to get more angry and angrier.
Yeah, I could see Joey losing his temper, but I think that, in my opinion, they're probably going to go for something a bit more scripted for Joey.
More than likely.
So yeah, also circling back to John, I wanted to talk more about the documentary that you were working on him. You mentioned that you're making a documentary. Do you want to talk more about it?
Oh, the Dabbler Origins. I do that in my spare time just for fun. It's a documentary series I do about telling John's origins. So we've already covered his childhood and the beginning of him getting to the Howard Stern network. John's watched them and he's liked them and he's been nothing but supportive about them. So I'm hopefully going to make the part 3, which will detail his Channel 9 days.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, we're coming towards the end of the interview, and I want to thank you again for being here, Dabblestorian. This has been really good. It's been really cool getting to know you.
No worries.
So I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite thing about the Hackverse Dabbleverse? Like, if you had to pick one thing that you really really enjoy about it, it could be anything. Maybe it's a show, or it's like a particular chatter, or a meme, or something.
I like Fractal Synth, to be honest. He seems alright.
Fractal Synth? Is he a chatter?
Yeah. He's one of the mods at Hackverse. He's been nothing but cool to me. I like him.
Very cool. Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
I don't think he gets enough credit, so he can have a little credit there. Ooh,
that's cool.
Dayla's pretty cool too.
Dayla's very handsome as well.
I mean, some people say so. I probably have to give out some credit to Bill Oney because obviously he's the big dog. He's the original.
Shout out to Bill Oney as well. Love it.
Yeah.
And
The
also,
you should really interview next time is Ian Hawke. Joey.C hates him as well.
oh yeah, definitely. I would love to get Ian on an episode of this as well. Ian, he's well known amongst the the chatters and in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, he'd definitely be interested in this.
Yeah, it'd be really really cool to hear to talk to Ian. He would have a lot to say. And also, what is your least favorite thing about the universe?
I think like people doxing people. I think that's a bit scummy. I don't think any of that behavior should be encouraged.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I agree with that. That is it's pretty shitty behavior.
Yeah. I mean, I ain't got nothing more really to say. I'm kind of tapped out now, buddy.
No, of course, man. Honestly, that was more than enough.
Yeah.
That was really good. That was sorry. Thank you again, brother, for being here on the first full episode of Chewing the Shit.
First
With
and possibly last episode.
First and last. Well, I really hope not. But yeah, we'll tune the shit. We'll do it with other people as well. But Dabblestorian, we would love to have you on again sometime soon. Maybe we can talk more. I'm sure there'll be more developments in the universe. The
Course.
ongoing podcast wars.
I mean, I imagine anybody at Radish Diff, as long as you ask them, would be interested in doing your interviews for you, buddy. So just feel free to reach out, and I imagine that everyone will say yes.
Wonderful. Well, we'll definitely try and get everybody on. But we're going to end it there. Thank you so much, Dabblestorian.